The power that tampers with money is no different from a robber.
That's the quote.
And when you look at the M2 money supply charts from, say, 2020 to the present, that quote stops being philosophy.
It becomes a crime report, a declaration of kinetic warfare against the saver.
And the really shocking thing is, the author wasn't some modern economist or a cypherpunk.
No, it was Nicole Oresme, writing in 1356.
So for this deep dive, we are initiating what we call the red taste protocol.
Right.
We're not here to talk about market sentiment. We're not discussing next week's CPI print or some trending stock.
No, this is a dissection, the raw mechanics of plunder.
Correct. The objective is survival. We're stripping down the history of sovereign theft from the furnaces of medieval France straight to the servers of the Federal Reserve.
And we're going to show you that the mechanism, it hasn't changed at all.
Only the technology has.
This is a clash of civilizations. On one side, you have the money of plunder.
And on the other, the money of sovereignty. If you think this is just a history lesson, you are dangerously mistaken. This is about whether you actually own your life's work.
Or if it's just waiting to be confiscated, the stakes are absolute.
It's the difference between owning your labor and having it siphoned off by a system that's literally designed to consume you.
So we're going from 14th century debasement furnaces to modern central bank servers, and we're ending inside the mathematical fortress of Bitcoin.
All right, let's begin the briefing. We have to start with the source code of monetary resistance. The text is De Moneta.
Written in between 1356 and 1360, the author, as we said, is Nicole Oresme.
And Oresme he's the critical figure. This wasn't just some cleric.
No, not at all. He was a world-class scholar living through a genuine dark age. The 100 Years' War was in full swing.
The Battle of Poitiers had just happened. The French nobility was decimated.
And their king, John II, was captured. The entire kingdom was, for all intents and purposes, bankrupt.
And this context is everything. The doctrine of the prince's sovereignty over money wasn't just a theory.
No, it was their emergency liquidity plan. They needed ransom money, they needed war chests, so they went right for the currency.
The idea was simple. If the king's face is on the coin, he owns the coin.
He owns the value within it. He can clip it, melt it, mix it with base metals.
He was his right, his prerogative.
And into this chaos steps Oresme, a bishop. He publishes De Moneta, and he doesn't just critique the policy, he attacks the entire premise.
He asks a question that must have terrified the ruling class.
A simple question. To whom does money belong?
It seems simple, but the answer, it completely changed the course of Western economic thought.
Oresme argued that money is a public good. It belongs to the community.
To the individual who uses it.
Exactly. The person using it to exchange their labor and property, it does not belong to the state.
This is the absolute pivot point.
Yeah.
He defines the prince not as the lord of the currency,
but as the administrator.
It's a fiduciary standard.
It is. And he even backs us up with, linguistic data. He points to the etymology of the word moneta,
which comes from the Latin root moneo,
meaning to warn or to inform.
So money is information.
It's an information system. It's about weight and fineness. The king's image on a coin isn't a mark of ownership.
It's a certification.
A guarantee of the data in that piece of metal.
Yeah.
And if the prince corrupts that data by debasing the currency, he's committing an act of, it's disinformation.
He's corrupting the entire information network of society.
And that is the core of the red taste protocol. It's the corruption of the signal. Oresme didn't call it monetary policy or quantitative easing.
He called it predatio. Plunder.
He defined inflation as artificial and organized plunder.
And he made a really critical legal distinction here. He argued that what the state does is actually worse than
what a common counterfeiter does, yes.
Yeah.
Much worse. A criminal who forges a coin is breaking the law. They're an outlier. But when the state debases the currency, it uses the law itself as a weapon.
It leverages the community's trust.
To commit theft on a national scale. It's the highest form of betrayal because it's done under the shield of authority.
Oresme also had this concept of unnatural multiplication. I find it fascinating because it aligns so perfectly with modern fiat.
It does. He looked at nature. Grain grows, livestock breeds. That's natural.
That's a natural increase.
But metal is lifeless. Gold and silver don't breed. So for the money supply to just multiply because a prince writes a new number down or melts in cheap copper.
It's a violation of natural law, a violent act.
It allows those who do not work, the state, the court, the bureaucracy, to forcibly seize the wealth of those who do.
And the results aren't just numbers on a page. Oresme described a total social decay.
Yeah.
And this part, it feels incredibly modern.
It shatters the social contract. First, trade collapses. Merchants can't predict value.
Right. If the yardstick keeps changing its length, you can't build a house. If the money keeps changing value, you can't build an economy.
But the deeper rot is moral. It turns free citizens into serfs. When your honest work can no longer secure your future because your currency is melting,
You stop working. You start speculating. You seek easy money.
you try to get close to the prince, close to the source of the new money.
The Cantillon effect. Centuries before Cantillon.
Precisely. Wealth transfers from the laborer and the poor, who have fixed wages, directly to the goldsmiths, the courtiers, the arbitrageurs who get the new money first.
It concentrates all the national wealth into the hands of a tiny few.
And Oresme's warning was stark. This is how you turn a nation into a tyranny.
Okay, let's bring this forward. We're stepping out of the 14th century and into the control room of the modern market.
Because the mechanism hasn't changed one bit.
The technology has. The furnace has been replaced by the server.
But the act of plunder is identical.
So let's talk about Philip IV of France. He was known as the counterfeiter king.
And he earned that title. Between 1295 and 1305, Philip cut the silver content of French coins by 66.7%.
He was funding wars and paying off debts to the Templars.
He literally dissolved the wealth of his own people to fund his ambitions.
And he even used primitive chemical processes to hide it, right? To make the debased silver look pure.
The medieval version of financial engineering, masking the theft. But now let's confront the data from our own timeline. The United States, 2020 to 2026.
Philip V used chemical baths. The Federal Reserve uses open market operations and yield curve control. The method is cleaner.
But the math is identical. When the Fed expanded its balance sheet from around $4.2 trillion to over $9 trillion in that tiny window, they didn't break into your house.
No. They used the modern Cantillon effect. They bought treasuries, they bought mortgage-backed securities.
They injected liquidity straight into the commercial banking sector.
So the people closest to that spigot, the banks, hedge funds, the big asset holders, they saw their portfolios inflate almost instantly.
While the wage earner, who was 5 steps down the chain, only felt the effect 2 years later.
At the grocery store, at the gas pump.
Exactly. The new money steals purchasing power from the old money long before the prices officially adjust. Oresme called it predatio. We call it liquidity.
The name changes. The wealth transfer doesn't.
The M2 money supply data. Just look at it. From 2020 to 2022, an increase of roughly 40%.
And as of January 2026, we're looking at an M2 estimate of around $22.7 trillion.
This is Oresme's unnatural multiplication on a planetary scale. And just like in the 14th century, the public is being deceived by the money illusion.
We have to break that down. The money illusion.
You see a house. 45 years ago, it cost $30,000. Today, that exact same pile of bricks and wood costs $1 million.
And the average person thinks, my asset appreciated, I'm rich.
But you're not. That is not a 33x increase in value.
No, it is a collapse in the measuring stick.
The house is the same. The money has died. It is the systematic, organized plunder of your purchasing power. You are lulled into a false sense of wealth, while your real labor value is drained away to fund the modern prince.
It's the counterfeiter king all over again. You just can't see the copper showing through the silver anymore.
It's the same mechanism. The state, the administrator, has decided to become a lord. They have broken the trust. They've weaponized the information network.
Which brings us to the synthesis. We've defined the problem. The money of plunder. Now we have to analyze the solution. The money of sovereignty.
And this is where we bridge 700 years. I want you to picture Oresme in a library. But it's a mythic tech noir setting. Moonlight is hitting the parchments.
And the words are transforming into code.
Yes, Oresme resisted with a pen. He wrote a brilliant treatise, but he couldn't stop the king.
He lacked the technology.
Exactly. Oresme argued that the value of money should only change with the consensus of the entire community. But in 1360, how do you do that?
Impossible. You couldn't audit the king's vault without, losing your head.
And then came Satoshi Nakamoto,
Who took Oresme's philosophy and built it directly into a protocol.
He won with code.
So let's talk about the full node. In this framework, the full node is the technical realization of Oresme's community surveillance.
It is. Oresme demanded it. The Bitcoin full node is the implementation of that demand.
Explain the mechanism specifically, because a lot of people think the miners control the network.
That's a critical misunderstanding. A miner expends energy to propose a block of transactions. That's all.
But the full node, That's the guards.
A full node is the entity that verifies it. It's a real-time cryptographic audit. There are tens of thousands of these nodes, run by volunteers scattered all over the globe.
And if a miner or a prince tries to break the rules to print more than 21 million coins or spend money twice,
The nodes reject it instantly.
it doesn't matter how powerful that miner is.
Irrelevant. They could have 90% of the hash power. If the math violates the consensus rules, the node simply says invalid. The block is rejected.
That is the consensus of the entire community that Oresme dreamed of.
It's a system where the rules are enforced by the users, not the issuer. Trust but verify.
And then there's the hard cap, the 21 million.
Oresme craved what he called mathematical temperance. He hated that a ruler could just change the standard of value on a whim. He wanted an unchanging standard.
Like a meter or kilogram.
You don't change the length of a meter because the government needs to pay its debts.
But fiat currency is an elastic ruler. Bitcoin is the unchanging standard.
The 21 million cap is immutable mathematical law. It replaces policy judgment, which is really just a mask for human error and greed with code that cannot be bribed, coerced, or debased.
It takes money out of politics.
And it returns it to its true function, a stable measure of value, the completion of civil sovereignty.
I want to address the skeptics here. The argument from traditional finance is always, Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. It's backed by nothing.
This is where the humanities shield comes into play. You have to apply the Lindy effect.
The Lindy effect states that the longer a non-perishable idea survives, the longer it's likely to keep surviving.
Oresme's core theory, that money belongs to the people, that debasement is theft, has survived for 700 years. It's the root of Austrian economics. It's the intellectual foundation for all sound money.
Bitcoin is simply the technological successor to that ancient wisdom.
So when you hold Bitcoin, you aren't just betting on a tech stock. You are aligning with a 700-year-old truth about property and freedom.
It has a 96% Lindy score.
Right. This is not a fad. This is the civilizational answer to 7 centuries of tyranny. The central banks have propaganda, but Bitcoin has the history of the human struggle for property rights baked into its code.
So let's synthesize this. For the person listening right now, what's the move? We've seen the history, we've seen the Fed data.
The move is to recognize the battlefield. You are in the middle of a war between 2 protocols. First is the state's red taste protocol, which relies on your passivity to strip mine your wealth through the printing press.
And the second is the protocol of the code, which offers you a shield.
It is a binary choice. The money of plunder, which erodes by the prince's whim. You wake up, and your life's work is worth less than it was yesterday.
Or the money of sovereignty, where Oresme's philosophy finally meets Satoshi's technology, the mathematical preservation of your civil rights.
As we wrap this up, go back to that image. Oresme in that Technoir library. He has a quill in one hand and a hardware wallet in the other.
He's not a relic, he's a guardian, a witness.
He saw the destruction of his own society. He saw it happen through the weaponization of money. And he is telling you across 7 centuries that you now hold the weapon he lacked.
The architect's proposition is clear then. Do you trust the prince or do you trust the math?
Entrusting 100% of your wealth to a system that can be printed is not an investment strategy. It is an act of submission. You are volunteering to be plundered.
You must architect a portfolio that prioritizes mathematical immutability.
Exit the decree. Enter the code.
Reclaim your sovereignty. That is the only strategy that ensures survival.
The history books are open. The next block is being verified. Make your move.
This has been The Deep Dive. We'll see you on the other side of the block.